we're finishing up just over 6 weeks in Vietnam. And during that time, we've learned some things that we wish we knew before getting here.
In this video, we're going to share with you 8 lessons we learned while traveling through this amazing country, plus 3 of our top experiences that you absolutely cannot miss.
And if you're a content creator too, make sure you stick around to the very end of the video where we give a bonus tip that we think will be relevant to you. To start off our list of 10 things we wish we knew before coming to Vietnam, we're going to talk about coffee. If you didn't know, Vietnam is the world's second largest coffee producer. We started our time in Vietnam in Hanoi, where it's near impossible to walk 5 meters without stumbling across a cafe. Now, coming from a place with a huge coffee culture, Hanoi immediately kicked Melbourne out of the park. Prior to coming to Hanoi, we knew about its infinite number of cafes, but what we didn't know was how strong the coffee actually is.
Here's
Vietnamese coffee! And we learned this the hard way. We participated in a coffee making class in Hanoi, each of us making and ultimately drinking an egg coffee, a brown coffee, and a white coffee. Now don't get me wrong, they were delicious, but we were so shaky and anxious afterwards.
what's it like?
So if you're like us and can't handle your coffee, maybe limit yourself to 1. Also, on the topic of cafes in Hanoi, we visited some of the quirkiest ones we could find, and you can check out that video up there in the corner.
Moving on to the second thing we wish we knew before traveling to Vietnam, and that's related to the weather. If you're like us, this might come as a surprise, but it's not hot everywhere in Vietnam all the time.
Say what?
We had days in Hanoi where we had to wear our puffer jackets, but the worst was yet to come. We travelled up to the mountains for a 3-night stay in Sapa and it was freezing. Cut to our time in the south where we absolutely roasted. So depending on the time of year you're planning on visiting Vietnam, you might have to pack for more than 1 season. Before we move on to our next lesson, we want to share our first activity you absolutely cannot miss in Vietnam, and that is a boat tour in Trang An in Ninh Binh. There are 3 routes you can choose from. We chose route 3 as it included a trip through the 1-kilometer long cave, which was awesome. We will link this activity in the description.
Next up, let's talk about money.
Hello, I like money.
Out of the 10 cities we visited in Vietnam, we were only able to pay on card easily in 1. Suffice to say, cash is king. Generally, the ATM will give you a max of 2 to 3 million dong, which is about 120 to 180 Australian dollars. But the ATM fee is usually only a couple of dollars. So you can either regularly visit the ATM or get cash converted before you arrive. Cash is also handy to have if you're doing tours, so you can give a little tip at the end. And on this topic, tipping in Vietnam isn't expected. However, when we do tours like a food tour through Ho Chi Minh City, we like to tip a little bit, usually only about 100,000 dong per person.
Unfortunately, during our time in Vietnam, we've come across a few scams. While we didn't find them to be as prevalent as other people make them out online, we did still experience a few situations we want you to be aware of. Coming out of the airport, we were walking to the pickup area to get into our car we had booked through Grab. While waiting, we were approached by a man in a t-shirt with the Grab logo printed on it, who said that he was the Grab team leader of that location. He then showed us his phone, where his background was a screenshot of the Grab logo. He wanted us to give him our phone so he could cancel our trip we had already booked and put us in his car for the same price.
Oh no.
This is quite a well-known scam in Vietnam, so just make sure you never let anyone grab your phone.
And on the topic of Grab, we definitely recommend downloading the Grab app for your trip. In fact, you can use it in a number of countries throughout Southeast Asia. It's sort of like a merge of Uber and Uber Eats because it's great for ordering food as well as for transport. Almost every time we ordered food, we were able to use coupon codes that would just appear in the app, so it's usually not that much more expensive than if you were to go in and order the food yourself. We've also found that it's usually the cheapest option for transport when you compare it to taxis or tuk-tuks off the street. Now, before Stace talks about our next tip, I want to share the second activity we do not want you to skip in Vietnam, and that is exploring the sand dunes in Mui Ne. We did a sunset tour of the 2 main sand dunes and it was so much fun.
Vietnam has some of the best buses to travel between cities, some of which allow you to lie completely flat in your own little space. Often these buses travel overnight, so not only can you get to your next destination comfortably, but you can also save on a night of accommodation by transferring overnight. For this reason, we would recommend considering your methods of transport before booking your accommodation. We booked all our buses through One2Go, which we'll put a link for in the description.
Coming to Vietnam, we knew that there was controversy online about whether or not Ha Long Bay is worth visiting in 2024. We actually have an entire video of our time on our 1-night, 2-day Ha Long Bay cruise, where we give our honest thoughts on this topic. However, looking back now, we wish we knew that there was a better option for maximizing your experience. Multiple people we have met along our travels have raved about their time on Cat Ba Island and the day trips to Ha Long Bay that they did. So if we had our time again, this is likely how we would visit Ha Long Bay.
Vietnam is known for its busy roads and traffic rules. Something that was very evident, particularly in Hanoi, is that there are very few pedestrian crossings and that motorbikes and scooters don't actually stop on red lights. In fact, on our walking food tour of Hanoi, our guide told us that only the cars really have to obey the traffic lights. There aren't really any rules for the motorbikes. His one piece of advice for taking on the roads in the old quarter of Hanoi was do not hesitate. Just walk across the road at a steady pace and the bikes should avoid you.
There is no fear in this.
Old quarter of Hanoi.
Good luck. Our final activity you cannot miss in Vietnam is a tour to Dark Cave in Phong Nha. This was such a cool experience. First you drive about 30 minutes out of the town, then you zipline 400 meters across the river and then swim to the mouth of the cave. From here you walk 1 kilometer through the cave in complete darkness before arriving at a mud bath deep in the cave. It was like nothing we've ever done before and we highly recommend it.
If you've made it this far into the video, congratulations. You've reached your bonus tip. Before coming to Vietnam, we wish we knew about the drone rules and regulations. To put it simply, do not fly your drone here.
Just
Don't.
do it.
In fact, if you can avoid bringing your drone into the country, you should. We've read stories online of drones being confiscated at airports and hefty fines being handed out to people flying in Vietnam. For that reason, we never flew our little drone while in Vietnam. But what about all that drone footage, you say? Okay, you caught us. We use stock footage sometimes. Speaking of, most of the stock footage we use is from our Artlist subscription, which we cannot recommend enough. Literally all the music, sound effects and plugins that we use are from Artlist. It has completely transformed our videos. This isn't sponsored or anything, we just really like Artlist. And we actually have an affiliate link, so if you use the link in our description to sign up, you can get 2 months free off your annual subscription. Have fun. Anyway, give this video a like if you like it and consider watching 2 of our favourite videos from Vietnam down below. We'll see you in the next video.